I have grave concerns at the St. Marien Friedhof in Strausberg, essentially a suburb of Berlin. And this is deep East Germany here. It took me like an hour and a half to get here between the slow S-Bahn and the local tram. But I have to say, it dropped me off right at the door of this cemetery. So it worked out, and the first thing I saw walking in the gate was this really interesting memorial to this, I don't really know, group of people. No idea what this is about. Not really what I'm here to see, but pretty cool looking nonetheless, and really well maintained. Beautiful flowers here on every grave, and a really interesting kind of sculpture here in the center with this glass ball and the curve and a little arch. So I don't know what that's about, but pretty cool looking. In any case, you can survey the land here. We've got typical graves along the wall. It looks like a very small but nicely kept cemetery. Just check out some of these graves here. Got a fairly prominent one in Karl Schuler from 1900. And some of these graves along the wall. Just want to see. There's an older one over here. A lot of these plaques have fallen off. And that's fairly new. Wilhelm Hildebrand, 1970. So, not sure why so many plaques are down or what's going on with that. Dreiser family, so all these family plots here, and I guess they just fell into disrepair at some point and they never replaced the plaques because there's a bunch of them here. I don't know, maybe that memorial in the center has something to do with all the missing names on these plots, but in any case, we've got a beautiful day here. Just going to recenter. It's starting to warm up. Going to warm up this weekend. This is mid-July. You're probably not seeing this until December. This is at the bottom of a stack of videos I've already shot here in Europe. But it was a good adventure for me because I certainly would never have come out here. I'm sure the tourism out here is zero. All due respect to the people who live here. I don't know of any draw here. And not many people younger than 50 know anything about Sigmund Jähn, who I'm here to see. And certainly not in America. Nobody knows him, so to speak. I'm sure somebody does. I'm sure there's a handful. But you would have had to really be paying attention or really be interested in Cold War politics or in space travel, because he is the first German in space, and technically he was an East German cosmonaut going up with the Soviets. So this is a crucial component of the Cold War. This is another beautiful isolated group, this time with a mourning figure in the center. Fantastic horticulture over here. Just beautiful. I guess my feet are going to get wet because the sprinklers are going. But yeah, I mean, look at that. Doing a bang-up job over here. It just looks beautiful. Such an incredible variety of flowers. So I haven't gone through here yet, obviously. I don't know where Sigmund Jähn is. But it's such a small cemetery, I'm bound to find him. And as I said, this was an adventure for me to come out here. But I was attracted to it just at the idea of seeking out Sigmund Jähn, really is the right way to pronounce it, I believe. Sigmund Jähn's grave. Because I had the pleasure of meeting him in 2018 at the Zeiss Planetarium, a little observatory in Berlin next to Schönhauser Allee stop, S-bomb, that had been closed for many years, and they were reopening it. They'd done some big renovations and technological upgrades, and they invited him to speak. And it was all in German, of course, but I had people there to translate for me. And he gave a great talk in the perfect setting. You know, they have the, if you've ever been to any planetariums, they've got this kind of dome with a representation of the stars. And they just upgraded to all this digital stuff so that they could pick any point in the universe and essentially zoom in on it and explore it. Digitally, of course, you know, representationally. But they do have a great telescope there as well. And that's where the name comes from, of course, too. Zeiss, if you dealt in photography, I'm sure you've come across Zeiss lenses. So they must have provided the lenses for the telescope. In any case, Sigmund Jähn, you know, gave a talk and showed personal photos from his time in space in the mid-70s. So we're talking essentially, you know, the second wave of astronauts in the Cold War. But, you know, it's pretty significant. You got to figure, you know, when we think of this period, talking about 1957 for Sputnik, and then, of course, Yuri Gagarin, I believe in 61, the first man in space. Prior to that, of course, they were sending up animals. I can't remember the name, might be Laika or something. It was a pair of dogs. If you just put in Soviet space dog, you'll find the name, I'm sure. But yeah, so Gagarin, first man in space. I don't know if he orbited the Earth. He probably did at some point. But, you know, so there's this back and forth between the Soviets and the Russians. The Soviets are winning the Cold War initially. And then as the Apollo programs develop, the Americans, of course, beat the Soviets to the moon. It's kind of a small town place, too, so a few people... excuse me. A few people I'm seeing giving me funny looks. Here's a grave that's sort of sticking out, and I wonder if that's him. Let's see, I don't think so. This may prove to be more of a challenge. It's actually going back a bit further than I expected. This is just maybe a sort of an unusual grave. Yeah, Robin, 1980 to 2008. Worth a look anyway. So yeah, by the time, you know, it's this post-Apollo missions dealing with space station development. And so Sigmund Jähn was out here, or is out here, because this is where he lived. I really like this one, Charlotte Kiefer, 2016. Really nice little village set up on there. So yeah, he lived out here with his family, and apparently this is where he's buried. So he's well known in Germany, certainly by people who were alive in the 70s, but maybe even beyond, because anybody who grew up in East Germany certainly would have been taught about him in school through the 80s. And I'm sure he had some following in the 90s. There are stamps. And when he gave his talk, I met him, and he signed my little stamp set. And very nice. Kind of like an old athlete type, like an old, you know, football player. Again, this was 2018, and he seemed very healthy, but unfortunately he died the next year. I don't know of what. Just going to check out this section over here, though I feel like he's maybe in the main section where I'm just coming from. So yeah, there was no indication for me that he was on his way out, but obviously he had something going on. But he seemed, you know, robust. He was like an old athlete who stayed in shape. He He was not hobbled in any way, and he looked good for his age, whatever it was. We'll figure it out if I find his stone, but I want to say, he was in his early 80s when he died. But yeah, very, very pleasant person. So, of course, the other thing that he's known for, where Westerners might know him, is from that movie Goodbye Lenin, which, is a funny premise. This idea that an East German woman fell into a coma during the fall of the wall. There's a nice war memorial. And she came out of the coma after East Germany was gone. And her family wanted to spare her the shock of all the changes that happened while she was in her coma. And so they rigged up this whole system to make it look like she was still in East Germany, hiding any kind of like Coca-Cola billboards or Western looking stuff, and they're trapped over here. And, restoring like Lenin statues and things like that. And so they went to great lengths to keep her in the dark about this. And one of the things they did was they hired a local cab driver who looked like Sigmund Jähn to play him so that they could record a video and pass this cab driver off as Sigmund Jähn and say that he was the new president of East Germany, or the president when she awoke, so that they could direct him to ease her into the process. But that was like a plausible idea, that even though he was never a politician, that Sigmund Jähn would have become the president because he was a national hero. So yeah, a funny premise. And so that's sort of like his pop culture moment that extends beyond Germany. And I can't believe I am struggling to find him, but let me at least do one pass. I thought it'd be more obvious. As always, this, whoever it is that you're looking for, even if they're prominent or the most prominent person, doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be a bunch of signs pointing to their grave, because, death is the great equalizer. Just going to recenter here. And everybody's sort of equal in here. But I feel like I'm coming to the other end here. And maybe that's where he is. Because otherwise it's not, terribly remarkable in terms of age or anything in here. Just a few turn of the century graves. I did see a picture of his stone, and when I first came in and I saw that glass orb, I thought maybe that was it. But no such luck. And he's not this prominent stone either. Let's see what's going on over here. That's just a tree. I thought that was a little monument. Interesting. Well, looks like I'm going to have to give this a pause and go hunting, because he's not apparent here. Again, I always like to just sort of stumble upon it, but I don't see anything over here. Let's just go through this section here that I haven't checked yet. But these are kind of interesting too, these like little pillars, all very uniform. Folks born in the 30s, if that's a particular East German style or what. But I'll tell you, getting out here, it's very suburban. There were a lot of like single family homes with cars in the driveway. And other than that, it does have that sort of East German feel where You know, the East Germans had a great tram network. So even if you look at the modern map of Berlin and the trams, the bulk of them are still where East Berlin was. And out here in this little town, you take the main train, and when you get there, there's a local tram running through the town. And I'm sure those rails were put in back in East German times. So where is Sigmund Jähn hiding? I feel like I must have walked by him because there's not much left that I haven't passed through yet. But it's rare for me, certainly, in Germany to, so I'm going to take a look at this over here, to visit the grave of somebody I've actually met. Das Dankbar Strausberg, World War I Memorial. Strausberg residence, and it looks like this is them over here. Well, it's the way it goes. So, you know, the most prominent figure here, who has a pretty distinctive grave, completely eluded me on the first pass. I'm just going to go up here as well. More fountains going here, more sprinklers. Get hit by this one. Careful, here we go. Run through. Oh boy, it's a fast one. It's chasing me. Let's see if he's in this little section up here. Final section. It's always the way. I may have to ask somebody. And it's only been a few years. I want to say he died in 2019. So I guess it stands to reason he would be in a newer section. But, you know, it's an old family plot, and who knows. Well, I guess that's going to do it. I'm going to pause it and hunt him down. No Sigmund Jähn yet. I'm still on the hunt, but I saw that little grave with moon and stars, and I thought that might be him. I know, but I feel like I remember seeing some kind of a marker like that on his thing, something that looked spacey. And I thought I would just do a little bit here with the nice bells going off. Must be noon. Boy, they're really ringing the bell. I spoke to one worker who gestured down here somewhere, and I spoke to two others and they didn't know shit, which surprises me always when you ask about the most prominent person in the cemetery, and even if you're not pronouncing it perfectly, that they don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's like, well, help me out here. The bell's intense. So it's got me thinking, though, that his grave is fairly humble. And that's why I'm missing it, because there's nothing prominent about it. It's going to blend right in with the others. And maybe I skipped it for that reason. Okay. Aha. Okay, let me go look. Dankeschön. So, one of the groundskeepers that I spoke to obviously talked to another one, and they're trying to tell me where it is in German, and I don't know what the hell they're saying, but they're pointing, you know, back towards the beginning, but it shows you too, like, nobody's coming out here to see this guy. This is my little quirk here. He's gonna be somewhere up here. That bell was going for quite a while. Well, I'm going to poke around here for a while. And hopefully it's definitely nothing super prominent. If they see me bouncing around here long enough, they'll probably come up out of pity. Aha! There he is. Okay. So, yeah, not terribly prominent. Jähn, Dr. Sigmund Werner Paul Jähn, 1982 to 2012. So, no. What the heck is that? What's that about? This might be his son or something. I don't know what that's about, because that's a 30-year-old person. I'm not sure what they're commemorating there, if it's a grave marker or what, but here's the stones. Dr. Sigmund Jähn, 37 to 2019. So in 2017 he would have been 80. So yeah, 82. His wife Erica died the same year. I'm not sure, just before, just after. But as I mentioned, you can see it's got this globe and a little model of the space station and his signature on the top of the stone. And some sculpture down here, this little smiling face. I'm not sure what the symbolic nature is, something personal. And it's a nice grave. But it's not ostentatious by any means. So there's the man, 5 years gone. That's a little sad to me, having met him. I have to say that, you know, I said it's not like I'm visiting graves of people that I know. But to have spent a couple hours with this guy 6 years ago kind of brings it home. And also I felt like I was getting to know him a little bit coming out here, because he must have taken that train ride many times between the city center and out here where he lived. Just checking out his neighbor here, Dr. Dirk and Stephanie Becker. Really nice flower set here. So yeah, that is the other thing about this, is inevitably there are these kind of phantom connections to the people that you can visit in graveyards, no matter how long they're dead or whether you met them or not. You're exploring territory, places. This goes into kind of a psychogeographic quality of moving through spaces that other people moved through at a different time. There's a kind of a time travel aspect to it, if you will, where these locations and important markers, whether they be geological or architectural, or in this case memorial, we assign significance to these things, and we can move through them with meaning and connections and get a sense of our place in the continuum of life and how we communicate through time, through these kinds of commemorations, and also through these activities. The activity that I do in coming to these places is a communion with people from the past. So I don't really get New Age spiritualist about it. I'm thinking more in terms of history and time and human connection and the ways in which we communicate. And it's kind of a fascinating thing. And an important part of travel, I think. Because what are you doing if you're not just going to the bars and restaurants, which has its place. That's part of it. You're living in real time. You're getting to know the culture and the qualities of that society that's foreign to you. But what else are you doing, when you're going to museums and reading these interpretations of history, things that you may have had some exposure to? You're getting some sense of connection because you're there in the place where it happened. So it's a long discussion and something I'd be better prepared to do, or better served to do with somebody else. It's to sit here by myself, talking to myself about it in the middle of the Strausberg St. Marien Cemetery, looking at crows. It's but I can't help but think of these things, having visited his grave now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little oddity. I'm not sure, but there's probably no videos on this graveyard, so that'd be the first, I suppose. But yeah, that's I appreciate that he called me out here essentially and brought me somewhere I certainly would not have gone otherwise.